In the Injustice universe, Wonder Woman is very cold and callous. They've gotten a lot of flack for her portrayal in that video game, how she's pushed Superman to becoming evil, and she doesn't seem to be friends with anyone. Well, have you ever wondered why that is? Is it just a bad portrayal, or maybe her origin is completely different in the Injustice universe? That is the case, and trust me, while you think you might know this origin, you don't, and it's good. It all began on Themyscira years ago, with Diana running through the forest and the Amazons chasing her down. They leapt on her back and they try to choke her out, and then they run up telling her to protect her front. Realizing that she was just ambushed, Diana presses her bracers together and boom! All of the Amazons are blown into the trees. Another of the warriors runs up telling Diana to stop what she is doing, just stop. She has injured her sisters and her dear friend Calliope. Another runs up demanding to know what Diana was thinking. She tried to defend herself, tell them that they ambushed her. But they insist. Amazons are to remain level-headed, and by using her godly powers, she made a callous and unfair call. She used those godly powers on beings that cannot handle them. Diana continued to try and defend herself, telling them that she was ambushed and told to fight as if this was war. If this was war, she would be an asset, not chastised for her actions. They tell her that while her powers and abilities would be an asset, her morals would not. She could have killed her friend. With tears welling up in her eyes, Diana tells her that Amazons have a duty to protect the world and fight for what's good. Then they point at her barely conscious friend. Tell that to Calliope. So Diana hangs her head in shame as she walks away. Thinking about what happened, she walked to the beaches of the island, and it's there that the story feels familiar to the ones who have heard this before. She finds a man on the shoreline, and he begs for help, dripping in water. The rest of the Amazons arrive, telling her to back away from the man, and this leads to us discovering the man that we will know as Steve Trevor, and he's led to a chamber with the rest of the women. The lasso of truth is thrown on him to force him to only answer the questions that they ask truthfully. Who are you and why have you come here is asked first. He explains that he is Steve Trevor and that his plane crash landed as he was delivering information on the war. He's been adrift for days until he found this island. Diana perks up. War? What war? Steve explains that there is a war of millions across the world fighting for what they believe is right and wrong, killing anyone in their way to prove their point. So they ask, what side do you fight on, Steve Trevor? And he explains, the right side. He's an American soldier for the Allies. They notice his smaller build and they mention that he does not seem to be a soldier, and he explains that he is actually a pilot flying planes. Diana decides that she will go with them to help fight this war, and this leads to the argument that once again you are probably familiar with, the Amazons telling her that she shouldn't go, this is not her battle. But Diana is insisting that the Amazons stop wars, and they fight for what's right, and they should be the heroes that they were in the ancient times. So Diana sets off on her battle to stop World War II, and she becomes a symbol of peace, hope, and freedom to the Allied forces, saving them and helping them win the war. Bombs are marked with the Wonder Woman logo as they are dropped on the enemies, and Steve and her begin to develop their own relationship. As the months go on, Steve gets word that there is a German spy locked up in the bunker, and they begin to run towards it as a bomb is dropped in front of them in the middle of London. Diana yells out that they have to help the survivors, but Steve insists that they need to get to the bunker. Diana doesn't listen, running through the smoke only to come back holding death in her hands. With tears in her eyes, she calls out that the child is dead. He is dead from this war. What kind of a monster would drop a bomb in the middle of a city filled with women and children? Steve looks at her. I told you this is different. They're willing to sacrifice anything to win this. And she tells him, this war needs to end now. So they get to the bunker where the German spy is sitting, and after Steve pretties his face up with his fist, he demands to know what information he was bringing back with the Germans. No matter how much blood is spilled, the soldier insists on only calling out Hitler's name, and Steve continues to pummel him until the blood is flown into the air and Diana has to stop him. They walk to the other side of the room and Steve is furious, punching the wall. He can't get any information out of them. He's doing nothing but wasting time. He presses his head against the wall of the bunker as he quietly wishes that there was a way to force out the information. Diana places her head on his back as she holds him, and she tells him, the lasso of Hestia. We can get it from the Amazon island. So they return to the island where Diana wishes to speak with her mother to plead her case to get them to help both her and Steve. She argues that the Amazon should be helping the men in this war, stopping the Nazis and bringing peace to the world. This is the mission of the Amazons. This is the mission that they were tasked with. Hippolyta doesn't think that the lasso should be trusted in the hands of men, as she feels that there is no goodness in their hearts. And oh, my dear listener, if only she'd know the truth. The real reason that Steve Trevor came to this island. You see, you thought you knew this story. You thought you could tell me where this was going to go. But I'm here to tell you, in the world of injustice, nothing is as it seems. Steve is not some allied soldier who mistakenly crash landed on the island. You see, while Diana was trying to convince them, Steve decided that they needed the lasso no matter what, and he snuck into the armory where he found it and he reached down for it. Behind him, an Amazon called out, "Man of war!" and he turned and opened fire, shooting the person in the stomach. That's when we see that it is a friend of Diana's and she falls to the ground dying, telling him, "I followed. Diana said you needed help, and I believed in her." Steve just says, "No, I'm sorry! I'm sorry!" And as she lay dying, she tells Steve, "I just wanted to help." He grabs the lasso and he makes a break for it, and as he runs out of the cave, all of the Amazons are waiting for him, having heard the gunshot. They call out thief and Diana tries to stop them, but that's when another Amazon comes out stating that he killed Calliope, Diana's friend. He puts the lasso down and he goes to his knees with his hands behind his head to show that he is defenseless, and Diana turns to him, pushing him to the ground. Is this true? Hippolyta asks Diana, "Were you distracting us so that he could steal it?" And Steve chimes in, "I couldn't take the chance that you would say no." Diana grabs the lasso and wraps it around Steve a second time. "You planned this from the beginning. You didn't tell me the truth." Hippolyta tells her that it's pointless. He was able to avoid the truth before. And Steve tells her, "No, you didn't ask me the right questions." He struggles to get away from the truth, but it's pointless. A sweat begins to bead on his forehead. Diana asks him, "Where else did you skirt the truth? Are you an American soldier or is there more?" And Steve tells her, "No, I'm a German soldier." Diana asks him, "Is your love for me true or was it a lie as well?" And Steve tells her, "It is true, but my love for my homeland is stronger than any love for any woman." She tightens the lasso around his neck. "You used me. You became the perfect cover, an allied celebrity. No one questioned it. I knew you would try to get the lasso for me if I seemed desperate." Diana stops him. "That is enough. I love you, Steve Trevor, but you killed one of our own and you fight for a side that has committed unspeakable acts of violence against innocent people unable to defend themselves. These things I cannot forgive. It is the sacred duty of the Amazons to defend the world, and I will defend it from you." With that, she breaks his neck, ending his life. And from this change in her origin, we see the cold-hearted, callous Diana, the one that shows no mercy, the one that agrees to Superman's militaristic ways. There you have it, the injustice origin of Wonder Woman. Trust me, when I read this, I was in shock, and I was like, that makes total sense why she is the way she is. She didn't have Steve Trevor to make her into the individual that we've all come to love in the movies and the current comic books. Anyway, don't worry, a normal Injustice 2 storyline will be out next week or the week afterwards. We're going to be getting that back on track, and I hope you guys enjoyed today's origin story of Wonder Woman. Don't forget to subscribe to keep up to date on the Injustice 2 storyline, and I'll see you next time, right here at Comicstorian.